Alrighty then. Hello everyone. Let's see if this is working. It's working. It is working. So, I decided to do a video which would be about what happens if the Dante Alighieri is being built first. If it's being built to the timeline of being ordered in 1902, 1903, and therefore is on due path to be completed under the same sort of schedule as it was previously by 1906. What the Royal Navy reacts with. And so, yeah, this is an interesting one for me because I'm going to have to take some things from 1910, I think. Italian Empire, also in 1910, will build a Dante Alighieri. And I'm going to design these ships and see what, what we have. Oh, good lord. I know I'm not ready for it, and I'm going to see what we can design for them. Fast Dreadnought. Not quite what I was looking for with Dante Alighieri, but we'll see. We'll see. We can certainly start off with this point and work out from here where we go. We can certainly do that. I don't know if anyone is watching. If they are, great. If they're not, hello. But I decided if I was going to do this, I might as well do it live, and then if anyone wants to watch me do it, they can. Also, I forgot to do a video on Friday because of all the things going on, so I was feeling kind of bad for the channel. So let's start off with this. Let's start off with the Dante. Well, main guns, centerline guns, 12-inch. Well, actually, that's historically inaccurate because they had triple turrets. So what am I going to have to do? Change the year to 1915? The Italians had triple turrets from the very first. Okay, that'll do. .22 knots. I'm going to need to modify the beam a bit, aren't I? Beam out. Because secondaries are 4.7s. And the Dante Alighieri has two of those. She had fairly good crop armor, so I'm going to upgrade that. I would say her armor scheme. It's that sort of scenario. Oh, the Italian Navy are not bad. They're definitely better than the French. And standard quarters. That should fit. That should fit. That fits with when it is gonna be. Now, case my guns 4.4 inch ones. Now she carries 20, so that's 3 already. I'm going to up all those to 4.7. Those are 41, they need to be 45s. And those certainly are not 29s in historical terms. Those certainly aren't 29s. So, what are we talking about? We're talking about... They're 46 cal. The 12-inch guns were 46 cal. Okay, so I've just said they were 45, they're 46. They're really good. And they're 50 cal 40.7s. So these are that, so we're going to have to upload those as much as we can. 32s is nowhere near what they were, but hey ho. That's a 42, that's closer. No, 46 now, that's all good. And torpedoes. They had, it was 3? 17.7 inch, wasn't it? Or was it 4? Yeah, 3. You'll leave them as 18 inch, definitely. They're 17.7 inch historically, but let's be honest, in the Royal Navy terms, 17 inch is 18 inch. 17.7 inches, yeah, 18 inch. And yeah, we're going to have to do something about the pitch and various other things. Oh, I love this ship design program. Let's see. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? Go through the floor. red anymore. Okay, that'll do. Take that down to many. And let's work on the universal thing you have to get some stability, and the joy that is this particular game. Is very thick main decks. It doesn't self-balance otherwise. It's a shame you can't press a button and go ballast this, which is what you would an actual naval architect would do. They'd ballast it. So 11-inch main deck thickness in order to maintain that balance. Let's start off with 10 inches on the turrets because that's historically accurate. And roughly the same on the barbettes. Waterline belt was historically 10 inches. Because a deck with an armour thick at less than 2 inches is not just worth having. Now, we're going to have to work on the aft deck, aren't we? That's literally what we're going to have to do to get this down to anything approaching a balanced scenario. I think 4 belt. No. No. We'll just leave that as that. And there we go, we have a Dante Alighieri of a type. That's not a bad looking ship. Now the thing is, if that's built, what's the Royal Navy's response to it? What's the Royal Navy's response to it? Well, I have my suspicion. Where does that go? Fast run, not battle cruiser? No idea where this one's come from. Gonna have to play around with that at some point. Let's go Dreadnought 4 again. Dreadnought 3 shape. For the Royal Navy, that design doesn't really work for a Royal Navy ship. I'm trying to think of one which this outline fits with. I'm trying to think. A Dreadnought 2, what it fits with. Dreadnought 1 is easy. Dreadnought 2... I think we'll go with a Dreadnought 3 hull, because I wouldn't be surprised if that looks closest to what it would actually be, because I have a feeling it would be an Orion sort of style scenario. Okay, Ellswick Ordnance Company, their 14-inch is going to get called on. Now, this will cause an interesting discussion because I can guarantee some people will argue that no, they wouldn't go for 14 guns, 15 guns. They wouldn't, they wouldn't worry about triples versus twins, etc. The trouble is, if you want to be the benchmark Navy, that's the problem for the Royal Navy, and they want to be the benchmark Navy. They need to be the benchmark Navy. There is so much British security tied up in being the benchmark Navy. They cannot afford to not be the benchmark Navy. I cannot stress it any more than that. For the Royal Navy, national security is being the benchmark Navy. And the benchmark Navy requires that they are the best. Now, you need to have at least a 3-knot. Hello, Rona. You need to have a 3-knot advantage to be able to guarantee control of a pace of a battle. So if the Dante Alighieri is going to be 22 knots, then the Royal Navy will have to aim for it to be 26 knots to guarantee it's going to be faster than 25 knots. That's the mistake they made with the... Well, that's the mistake they made with the Queen Elizabeth class. I think they had slightly better for their time. So again, I'm sort of backdating this to what they would do in their period. Let's see, that's a range of cruising speed 15 knots. 16, it did originally need the rate cruising speed of that, so yeah, we'll do that. Cruising speed was normally about 10 knots at this point. Hello, everyone. Hello, Blackbird 17. Hello, Kentucky. Lost your 40k game today by concession. That's worrying. There'd be 45s. So as people can see, and hopefully you can see, I discussed in a recent video on my YouTube channel. Hello, Galson14. I discussed the idea of what happens if the Dante Alighieri is completed first. What does the Royal Navy work on? And this is, broadly speaking, my theory. Broadly speaking, this is what I think the Royal Navy does. Broadly speaking, engine efficiency is at 100%, which is good. Natural boilers. Bulkheads at many. Formidable. Very good design. Happy with that. Put that down to 2. That down to roughly 3, because it's a period that we're talking about. So we're down to... We are still 500 tons overweight, and we haven't ended in secondaries. What have I up the... It's got to be the speed. But I can't see them dropping below 26 knots. I really can't. Let's try something out. My theory is they would go for triples. But I know there's a fair number of people who think they would go for twins. So let's see if what the weight works out of twins. That's a fairly large weight reduction. And let's consider the just go up that a bit. And then we need to put in the secondaries. Now, my belief strongly is the British would go for a 6-inch secondaries. Although these do not look like British 6-inch guns. But let's see what we can do with the 6 inches. Ship's now overweight. Well, it will be getting even more overweight very quickly. So now I'm 700 tons overweight. 4 weight offset. It's balanced now. Take that down to 12. Take that down to 4. Put that at 9. That at 4. That at 4. That at 3. And yeah, take that down to 3, put that up to that down to 1, and that up to 1. And now I'm 30 tons overweight. Where should we get the 30 tons from? Where should we get 30 tons from? That's always a question. That is always a good question. Where do you get 30 tons from? There you go, got 30 tons. And nothing more. Lose the Q turret. That is a temptation, but let's try this out as a twin. And let's see what happens. So we're going to try the twin, and then we're going to try it out as a triple. Let me just check the designs. It swapped the designs round. I'm sure I designed that as the Italians. Yeah, that's the Formidable. And this is the enemy. This game's having some fun glitches because I'm the British Empire versus the Italian Empire. Design ship. Yeah. They switched the two designs around. They have. Well, it still works to test it. Let's go and test it and see what happens. So apparently I'm in charge of the Dante Alighieri type Albemarle now. And my opponent is the ship I just designed. Yeah. Ah, well, life happens. Still test out the design, and then I'll test out the next design. I wondered why none of the British ships look like British ships, and none of the you know. Hello. Let's go see what she looks like. This looks very much like a British ship to me. Yes, it could be an indicator. I thought I was designing the Dante Alighieri first. I'm not sure why, but I think... Sorry. It's just gone... For some reason. Damn. There you go. Don't ask me why, but OBS just decided to change. OBS is causing me fun sometimes. Sorry, that was an OBS. I clicked... I'm going to blame me because it must have been me, but OBS is having fun. It doesn't necessarily like doing Twitch streaming on this system of Starlink. Artorius Dux Bellorum. I don't trust anything I can't pronounce, which has come from most things. That is always a good plan. Don't trust anything you can't pronounce. I like that. There again, I have some problems because I seem to have the linguistic ear of a dead vole for some reason. Still tests out the idea. See, that does look very much more like British turret structures, doesn't it? You see, if I was in charge of this, I know exactly what I'd be doing with it. Get down to 18,000 yards, decisive engagement range, crush. 14-inch, yes. Because honestly, here's the thing: the Royal Navy has a choice. If the Dante Alighieri is coming out, and this is called the Albemarle here, but it's the Dante Alighieri, and it's going to be in service in 1906. The Royal Navy has to steal a march on it. I covered this in the video tonight. The only option really for the Royal Navy, if they don't go 12-inch, is the 14-inch from Ellswick Ordnance Company, which is a 14-inch 45. There is no 13.5-inch, there's no 15-inch available in 1904, 1905 to go for. There is a 14-inch from Ellswick Ordnance Company. And yeah, even that's not built. That's a theoretical gun. But it's better than nothing to steal in advance. Because Ellswick can claim they can build it, have worked it all out, have tested it all out to build it. They just need to actually build it and test it, which means they need someone to foot that bill, and the Royal Navy would foot that bill in order to not lose the advantage. Because the trouble is for the Royal Navy is being the benchmark Navy. I think the 14-inch shells are starting to tell. So we've got 10 14-inch guns versus 12 12-inch guns. But this thing does have some absolutely obscene armour. In order to maintain stability. Listen, would the battlecruisers need to be around 30 knots? That's the interesting thing. If you think about it, if the battlecruisers traditionally were around 20, were being pushed to 28 knots, if the battleships are 26 knot ships, then the battlecruisers might need to be 32 knot ships. And that's going to be fun. Because the reason the Royal Navy would end up with a 26 knot battleship is, hear me out. So the Royal Navy has to guarantee they're building it 3 knots faster than Dante Alighieri, right? Which means they need to aim for 25 knots. If you aim for 26 knots and fall short, you're fine. Because if you're doing it with the way you're going to have to do it, you're going to have to put in a lot of boilers. You either have to get the small tube boiler working earlier, or you have to put in a lot of boilers. We're talking, well, horsepower greater than they give to the Queen Elizabeth class is going to be needed. So that's what they're going to do. They can do it. They've got all the theories and viability that they can do it. It's going to cost, but again, they'll do it. Because they have to be the benchmark Navy. It's going to be a warrior gloire moment. And the Royal Navy can't afford for the Italians to be the warrior. Is that RN 26 knots or real 26 knots? It would be officially 26 knots. God knows this is the Royal Navy. It's like I was having a comment chat with someone today about the joys of the Royal Navy and their how do I put this politely? Their rates of fire of their guns, and how apparently HMS Rodney can not only go fast, she can also break the rate of fire official rate of fire of her guns, because officially she's sort of 3 rounds in every 2 minutes, so really once every 40 seconds, and that's what she managed to achieve as a rate of fire while she's long range from the Bismarck. But when she gets closer, by the final third of the battle, her rate of fire goes up so much that during the battle, the length of battle, she actually averages 1.69 rounds per minute instead of 1.5 rounds per minute. So let's work it out. If you average 1.5 for a full quarter, 3/4 of an operation, yet your overall rate of fire is 1.69, what were you doing in that last quarter? What kind of rate of fire were you doing in that last quarter to get it to an average of that? Right, some more tube boilers. Is the issue metallurgy or feed water purity? Metallurgy. And they can deal with feed water purity. They can do that. They have purifiers. They have systems like distillation plants. They can deal with field water. It's metallurgy and it's seals on the tubes. It's welding. I think the 14-inch is going to win this. I think you are going to win this, my Italian 14-inch friend, who's simulating the Royal Navy's response. Amal, you are strong, you are doughty, but I doubt you're going to win this one. Listen, this from the captain. Yes, this is the captain who gets 26 knots out of his 23-knot ship. So, yes. But still, you know, you work it out and go, hang on, how the frigate did they get this? Because they got 1.5... Basically, you've got to sort of go think, well, I've got 4.5 overall. But I averaged down, if I don't know, to 1.69. So if I times that by 4, well, by my count, 0.69 times 4 is 2.76. Plus 6, so 6.76. So it's 6.76. You take off 4.5 of that, you end up with 2.26. So theoretically, the rate of fire they were achieving per minute in the last quarter of the battle was 2.26 rounds a minute. Using that rough on the back of the well, mental calculations, if you want to, whatever phrase you want to do it. Now, admittedly, she's not having to do... It's the difference is, of course, between realistic rate of fire and actual rate of fire. And sometimes navies record what they call their rate of fire, as in, this is how long it takes to reload and fire our guns on a plain footing. But sometimes navies gave you what they call their realistic rate of fire, which is elevating to an average firing point and firing, and then dropping it down to reload. So basically it's a case of, we will do from this point, fire, drop down, reload, up again to fire, and that's the time they give you. So you always have to be careful when you have those average rates of fire. You have to ask yourself, is this a navy which is giving the realistic rate of fire or the actual rate of fire? Listen to your marathon reaction video. What happens if you slap Warspite's machine spirit into a modernized renown hull? Someone cries. Someone cries a lot. That's a lot of shells coming. Formidable has been... Oh, now it's in 6-inch range. That's just not good. Being in 6-inch range is not good for my ship. But realistically, and I'll rejig this to try and figure out with the triple turrets. Realistically, if, you know, it's things that can be locked in. One of the things that happens is with the dreadnoughts, because the Royal Navy locks in on the twin turrets, twin gun turrets, they can do that. But if the Dante Alighieri is being built first, and maybe that's launched first, and that has triple turrets, then suddenly that's going to be part of the feature of the differentials between a dreadnought, now a Dante-style battleship, and a normal dreadnought. There's going to be a case of, well, you know, the pre-Dantes, they have twin turrets. The Dantes have triple turrets. So suddenly, anything which doesn't have a triple turret, it isn't a Dante. And, you know, the Royal Navy could go, well, we've got twin 14-inch, all they like, but they've not got that. You know, you only have to look at some of the components in Warrior, which respond directly to... No. Let's design ships. We want standard superimposed barbette. Is there a tall funnel here? Because I want it to be about the same height. It's tall funnel for... Nope. That should do. That's useful. Semi-oil. Let's see if we can do this on coal. We can do that on coal. What can we do? There you go. Right, so that's starting off on the triple one. Gonna have to fix this though. Going to have to fix this. Wow, that's a big shipper. That would be a very intimidating ship to see, but that's a very hefty pitch margin which I'm going to have to fix. That won't fix it for me. Now, what do I want to do? Got geared turbines. I can probably do some regular turbines, but that's going to make me overweight. Coal. What can I do? What are those? They're 41s. No, the raw would never fit 41s. That'll do. 45s. Now, this could be their way of getting around not they have to be 6-inch at the 50s. Let's see what we can do. That'll do, that'll do. Okay, nuking up, and we're back. Hey, so everyone. Broken boiler or Tribune? Do you think that the USN pushes fast battleships under the paradigm? Think that the Congress would give them the money for a battleship battlecruiser fleet? I think honestly, this part of me wonders what happens to the US in terms of this scenario. Because I think if these things start appearing, there is part of me which wonders if the USN even gets into the fight. I'm having to adapt this to deal with some of the mechanisms of the thing, but you know, that's always fun to deal with. Notice I haven't put torpedoes on this one. Right then, let's take that down to 14, that down to 9, that down to 4, that down to 4, 4, 3. Why don't I give them so much thing I do not know. Same amount of bulkheads. This is the British again. Yeah, it's down to 40%. That's fine. What can I do to also adapt? I can take that down to 9. Inner deck, inner belt. And that'd be standard what I'd be looking for, actually. I'm trying to work out what this is going to be. I have a feeling. So that's 4.4. We have 155% of capacity. So that's got 62. That's got 55. So that's 117. 172 is 155% of capacity. So basically it's 2/3 over. It's a third over. So I've got 117. What is 2/3 of 117? It's roughly 72, isn't it? So I need funnels which aggregate to 2 and give me 72. Preferably they're going to look similar funnels. So that has that. Now I'm only 400 tons over. Pitch is 27%. Aft weight is that. Okay, so let's start managing things. Where am I going to get that weight from? What can I lose? What could I have to have? What can I afford to drop down a level? If I take that down to that gives me the weight I need. I've still got pitch at 77.6%. Okay. I don't think adding in this much is really going to help me on this front. I need to drop that by 1.8%. So where am I getting that 1.8% weight from? I need to do something smart. I've got gear turbines. That's fine. What have I got for those? Diesel auxiliary diesel engine, auxiliary petrol engine. I'll go with an auxiliary petrol engine. That's going to save me some weight. But that also puts the pitch up to... Is it worth it? It does get me a couple of 100 tons though, so I can maybe put that into this. So let's get this to stability point and see what this is at the stability point. So that's at 6.5 inches. Okay, and that is 200 tons, just under 200 tons over. Okay, where am I getting the 200 tons from? If I take that down to 25, what does that do? But that doesn't help me with the stability, does it? No, because that gives me more stability. Okay, think it through. Think it through, Alex. What would you do? What should we do? Where can I gain 200 tons from? It's taking me down to 100 tons over it. Okay. Bingo. That'll do. That'll do. So now we have 24 6-inch guns, 12 14-inch guns. Not the full 15, but 12. That's still more a stronger 2 more gun broadside than the previous one have. So let's go to the other side, and we could fight against this, but I'm not going to. I'm going to build a Dante Alighieri, but an Italian with Dante Alighieri. Okay. Just check. This is the Italian Navy. Yes, it's the Italian Navy. The thing is, that doesn't really look like the Italian Navy ships. Suppose it does, but yeah. Okay, centerline guns. 12-inch triples. Admittedly, this does look far more Italian in its design at this point. I'm glad we can go really quite fat with that one, because that would fit with them. Their designs. Rather stable. Let's go for advanced. Yeah. I am being generous, I have to admit to them. But I'll work out that generosity in a bit, because that generosity is not going to come without a price. Now, they had 12 guns mounted in there. So that's the 12 guns. Secondary guns. So you can't do that on this ship. You can't put them where they did have them historically. Because historically you had them on the side, so you have to go to this design, which really doesn't give you the actual feel of the ship, so it doesn't really fit. Can I get away with it on this one? No, because they're at the same level and that's at the higher level. That's going to annoy me. It is. It's just. It's no use pretending it won't, but it will. It will annoy me. .58. They wish they had the 12-inch 58 in this period. It's a 12-inch 45, 46. Yeah, that's more like it. There you go. Right, and secondary guns are the 4.7-inch casemates. So we want at least those four, and where should we put the other ones? That one there. It's got 4 in there. There you go, that's S6. So they've got 12 of those, and they need 2 twin turrets. 4-inch twin turrets. That's not going to go there. They don't fit, do they? How large can I make the beam? There you go. Alright, so we have 4.7s in. Advanced hydraulic. Add all that in, and I think that's a fairly good, fair representation of a Dante Alighieri. Let's go for that to try and balance her out, and we're up the main deck again. The good thing about using the main deck, and please note the reason I do this, is because the main deck is the one area which is, how do I put this? They are least likely to be doing long-range plunging fire with this level of technology, so therefore it isn't going to affect things if you're upping the deck armor. Upping the belt armor to the point at which it's impossible armor, that is going to cause trouble. You know, if you officially got the armor to the point to which it is no longer, how do I put this politely? It's no longer appropriate to the time period, you're in trouble. Guns. 12-inch, 4-inch 35s and 4-inch 37s. .7s and 4.7s. So, we now have that versus this, also with triple turrets. We will see. We will see what happens. Let's have a go. Did Dr. Clarke know he dropped out? Yes, I do realise it dropped off for a second. I'm not sure why though. Sorry for Spain and France, definitely. I also feel sorry for Germany because, let's be honest, Britain's response will be so big. What's Germany going to do? You know, Germany's just going to end up in a nightmare. Guardsman, if Dante came first, do you think the Russians would have gotten the Ganguts earlier, and maybe they would have gotten the second gen and would have pushed harder, knocking Germany out of the general list? I don't know if the Russians would have got the Ganguts earlier. Honestly, I think the Russians are in their own internal trouble, so I don't think they necessarily get anything earlier. I think what you're dealing with more is... Sorry a second, I'll be back in a second. I don't feel too bad as I'm leaving you as the game's playing. Before anyone worries this so much, yes, this isn't Iron Brew, but it's being drunk. Because it was procured. And because my sister is very keen not to drink it, and it was procured for her, but she doesn't want it, so I'm trying it. I'm going to see if it's drinkable. If it is, I will have some. I will drink it. If not, I'll get rid of it. Oh, that's a pungent smell of strawberries. That is a really pungent smell of strawberries. To be fair, I got it because she asked for cherry and strawberry. She asked for raspberry or strawberry lemonade, and not the worst thing I've ever drunk. So, do I think the Ganguts would come earlier? No, but I do think Germany would have faced some real trouble. I think America could have also been in trouble. I think because America's evolutionary path changes dramatically if Britain is starting off with a 14-inch gun. If Britain's forced to pursue the 14-inch gun as a way to outmatch the Italians, and is forced to produce the triple turret as well, just think what the Americans have to do. They have to go triple turret. They're going to have to go 14-inch, if not bigger guns. They're going to have to develop all those, and figure the size of shit they're going to have to do, because the Americans will rely on having volume of fire and slower ships, but basically being a slow, thunderous destruction. I think I'm going to have to be aggressive with you. You've got enough speed, you can do what you want to do. Still not firing back at me. Its guns can't reach here. which is good for me. But yes, I don't think the response exactly looks like this. I have visions of there being a 5th triple turret in the middle, and these stacked so that they're sort of raised up. So you have 2 sets of 3. That is a lot of firing. Six inches range is at 15.4 kilometers. Their 4.7 is 13.9 kilometers. Their 12 inches range is at roughly 16.7 kilometers. I want a bit more damage done to them before I have to, I close within 6-inch range, I think. Because I now have no advantage in terms of my rate of fire, because I don't have the numbers of guns advantage that would give me a rate of fire advantage. So we're going to be reloading speed is going to be roughly the same. That's another reason why you go for a 15-gun ship against a 12-gun ship. Because if your rate of fire per individual gun is the same, your cumulative rate of fire is greater. And rate of fire matters. Especially when you're dealing with the mathematics of war, which is what they taught. Remember, the Battle of Tsushima, the reason that people think the Russians are going to win is they add up the numbers of heavy guns, and they think the Russians therefore have a mathematical advantage which is unable to be defeated. And then, of course, the Japanese defeat them by coordination of those heavy guns and salvos. Well, here's the thing. The mathematicians do not go away. Those people making those cases do not go away. What they do is change is to go, well, hang on. If the Russians have been salvo firing with their greater number of guns, they would have won, because they would have been able to score more hits, because it's a mathematical thing. And people love the idea of maths defining warfare, because it turns something which is incredibly messy, incredibly nasty, incredibly horrid into something you can control and manage. And they love that idea. Something they can control and manage. Truly vile. But not the worst. Can they graduate to big turret? They could if they go super firing and 14-inch guns and 26 knots out the gate, then they've gone something. But at that point, you have probably 32 knot battle cruisers. And just think about that. If you're starting off by aiming for a 32 knot battle cruiser in 1907, 1908. Just imagine what the fleets are looking like in World War I. And also, think about what the poor Germans have to do. Because the Germans, traditionally, their battle cruisers were 28 and were dropping down to 26.5, 26 knot ships. The nicest way, if you're building a 26 knot battle cruiser and the original battleships can do 26 knots, you are not building a battle cruiser, you're building a target. You're building something which there are going to be some older battleships going, hello, you've built my dinner. Is where do you put the 5th turret? Where do you put the 5th turret? Well, I know where I put the 5th turret. There. That's where my 5th turret was originally planned to go, but they have weight limits and they are being annoying with me. I am taking control. I do realise I didn't do this in the earlier match, but I want to test out the 6-inch guns, and the only way I'm going to get the 6-inch guns into firing range is if I do something stupid. See what I mean about stupid? The battle is now over due to being golden BB'd. Seriously, your entire advantage is your 6-inch guns. Keep using those 6-inch guns, my friend. If we win this battle based off 6-inch gunfire alone, we can all be very, very worried. Fact is, you survived apparently your entire main ammunition being cooked off, despite the fact you would never have one magazine for both the forward and the aft guns. They would have separate magazines, so if this end cooked off, this lot would still be firing. But no, this game doesn't function that in. Amongst all my problems, that is a small one, but it is one which grates on me quite a lot. This ship is having a serious fire time. And yes, we have just won due to the 6-inch secondaries. Oh, good lord. So that was a win despite myself, but also because of myself, because of my insistence on 6-inch secondaries. This is why you go to 6-inch secondary route. 6-inch secondaries. Add in the high explosive and they will do a lot of damage. Let's see what else we can do. Well, that'll do nicely. Secondaries 6-inch. Okay, let's try and find a barbette we can actually use. I don't want it on the centre line, I want it actually out because I'd like my 6-inch gun over it, but that's not going to work for me, so I will just put in a twin 6-inch in this area. And let's go down to these guns and make sure what are these? Guns, they're 41s, we don't want 41s, we want 45s. And those you want to be as long as possible. Okay. Yes, some guns have got poor scenarios, but let's go see what we can do. Okay. Barbette. Go with geared turbines then. Ship is overweight. Yes, I am using a battle cruiser hull as the basis of my design, but we'll see what we can do. That'll allow me a maximum 10.3 in this one. Ah, cute. That's going to be nothing. Okay, so I'm 3,000 tons overweight. What can we do? What can we do with 3,000 tons overweight? That is 2,000 tons. That's not going to affect that too much. But again, we're at 165 capacity. So that's 62. That's 55. So again, we can take the funnels down. Funnels down. Yeah. Yeah, it is weird. The ammo is just gone, and it's not historically accurate at all. Not historically accurate at all. We are 3,300 tons overweight. Where are we getting that from? So where are we going to get that weight from? What are we going to do? Where are we going to get it? Come on, Alex. Think. Set that down to a single hole. Leave that at 3. Now down to 2,000. Doesn't really help much, does it? Well, Lord Warden, some guns have 4 sectors of fire. I guess I know what guns those are going to be. Aft weight offset 10.6%. We are heavy aft. This is going to be an interesting one, because what I would like to do is almost certainly not going to be allowed by the system. But we will see what we can achieve. We will see what we can achieve, because if I completely redesign that part of the ship, and this, does anyone also think that this music sounds, can you hear the music for starters? Because it sounds very Lords of the Ringsy to me. Very Lords of the Ringsies. Oh, the lower belt armor now has an effect on the weight. The inner belt. That has an effect on pitch as well. Increases pitch. Oh. This game doesn't make sense sometimes, it really doesn't. Let's go down to about 4, 4, 4. Why is the barbette at 19? Under what stone is it 19? And 3, and is that, how long has that been 19 for? And we're down to a point at which I can balance things out now. Reduces the weight. Yep, full weight offset now, 9.6%. Thank you, that's all I needed. Aft deck. I don't know how the full weight is so heavy compared to the rest of the ship when you consider what is on the rest of the ship, but and there's another thing. The very existence of this gun means that you would have 3 separate magazines because of the engines and boilers that would be in between them. You would not have shells being passed backwards and forwards between them. Full weight offset 4.6%. This is just embarrassing, but it's... at a certain point, this is just going to be terrible. Alright then. Now, shall we see if this battle crew, well, it's using a battle cruiser hull, but it would actually be a battleship, what it does, to test the concept. Yeah, primary note you're having is Citadel. You are using the best armor type, yes. Say tonight, are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. I'm catching up on this, and I thought, well, I'd do this now. And we'll just run through this, and then I think that'll be it. But basically, the point I wanted to make was I wanted to look into... I did say a promise in tonight's video on YouTube that I would, look into a Dante Alighieri and what it would likely have on the Royal Navy and UAD. And this is what I've worked with. This is my concept, roughly, of what it would look like. I think it would have more 6-inch guns than this. I think it would have at least 5, if not 6 turrets on each side, armed with twin 6-inches. But I do think it would have 15, 14-inch guns. That's going to be really interesting because this, of course, is a battle cruiser hull. But that's the point. You do have hulls which can be made to go 28 knots. So making a 26 knot hull is not that difficult. It's not really what you want to do. It's going to be expensive. I mean, it's going to make battleships, dreadnought battleships, even more expensive. But it's going to make the problems for Germany even more, because Kiel Canal is going to have to be even bigger. And it's going to make the problems for everyone else even bigger, because if the Royal Navy is responding to Dante Alighieri coming out and basically seeking to warrior gloire the Dante Alighieri, they have to go big or go home. And they can, again, for the Royal Navy, being the benchmark Navy matters. I keep using that phrase, but being a benchmark Navy, if you get an example today, every time we discuss navies in the world, you're comparing them to the US Navy, you're talking about US Navy's aircraft carriers, and that's part of being a benchmark Navy. You know, that's the point. If you're a benchmark Navy, you are automatically part of the discussion, and everyone's automatically comparing to you. It gives you a tremendous psychological advantage. For the Royal Navy, they needed to be benchmark Navy because it gave them a tremendous psychological advantage over everyone. They'd been that benchmark Navy since 1805. They weren't going to let it go away. Well, not without a fight. That's why they did Warrior to the Gloire. That's why the Royal Navy has no reason to rush through Warrior other than to completely wipe out the Gloire as a threat, as a benchmark threat. So no one can start comparing their ships to the Gloire. They compare it to them. And it's again with the Dante Alighieri. If that's being built and is going to come out, then the Royal Navy has to completely overmatch it. Completely overmatch it. So it's got 9 inches of deck armour. You know, I had to balance it somehow. They don't let me stick ballast in the bottom. If they let me stick some concrete down there, then I mean things would be different. But they won't let me do that. Trouble is, these are the lowest rank of search tools and visual aids, so they're really not good for spotting the enemy. Can just take some direct command. Yeah, balancing ships is becoming increasingly difficult in this game. It is. They are going to need to add a ballasting function. I would say that their easiest problem will be to make it an auto ballasting system, but you know, if you could balance by section of ship, that would really help. Add in ballast, center, main, aft, you know, divide it up somehow. Most of my ships have 10.2 inches of deck armor to compensate. You're nice. I can confirm Iron Brew is better, but it's not terrible. I'll give the other bottle away, I think. I'll find someone who wants it. Just noticed a green arrow. Enemy ship is to the southwest. Let's head to the southwest. I think that's where we're heading. Run the guns out. Sorry. So I can't see. We see Fisher isn't keen on the wing turret because he likes wing turrets. He wants the wing turret because he wants the 6 forward firing guns. So if you go for triple gun turrets, he can get that with 1 super firing turret. He can get his 6 forward firing guns. That's what he wants. It's not that he likes wing turrets. It's that he wants 6 forward firing guns. That's his entire reasoning for it. So it's. Fisher doesn't have a wing turret obsession. Fisher has a 6 forward firing guns obsession. Have I made an usable earlier destroyer yet? No. I still haven't managed to build a usable earlier destroyer. No, but the thing is, in this scenario, I think they would have gone for a triple 14-inch turret. Because there were triple turrets on the designs, and I think, again, the point is this. If the Dante Alighieri comes first, then look at the benchmarks it's going to be setting. Triple turrets, not twin turrets. That's the pre-Dante type. 22 knot speed, not 18 knots. That's the pre-Dante type. Secondaries in turrets and casemates. Okay, universal secondaries. Alright, and they've got 12-inch guns, 46 caliber. The Royal Navy can't afford to let that be the benchmark, because they can't afford it to be known as the Dante-style battleship. The psychological advantage of it being the Dreadnought pattern battleship is too great. The same with the Warrior being the benchmark for years, making them sort of the Dante, allowing the Dante to be the benchmark is going to cause them lose too much of their influence, which they depend on for the Empire security. So they're going to have to build something bigger and more powerful, and it's going to have to be built quickly, but it's going to have to be built. And I would say, if you are going to gloire a Dante, because the trouble is, the advantage the Royal Navy has with Warrior and Gloire is the Gloire is actually terrible. Gloire is really not good. So if you have Dante, well, Dante is actually good. So you have to go that much better. This is where I get the figure of 26 knots, because they've got to aim for at least 25 knots. So to get 25 knots, they've got to aim for 26. They have at least a 3-knot advantage over it. They have to aim for 14-inch guns. They have to go with, because Elswicks have a 14-inch gun. That's the biggest gun that's practical that's available. They have to go with a triple turret because they have to beat that, and 15 guns beats 12. And the thing is, this ship therefore would blow the Dante out the water because of its firepower, and it would quickly become that's the Dreadnought, and the Dante would be known as the almost Dreadnought. Let's see. I think that Dante Alighieri might win this battle. Range advantage. That's all I have at this precise time. All I have. Range and rate of fire. Does help. So, but don't the Royal Navy get the drop with turbines of Italians? Well, you see, the thing is, the Italians bought from Parsons. And the Italians could just buy from Parsons as they did historically. In a nice way, Parsons are happy to sell to the Italians, because if they sell to the Italians, then the Royal Navy will definitely buy from them. So Parsons aren't not going to sell to the Italians. And let's be honest again, Germany, which is actually building a navy against Britain, wouldn't have been able to field their fleet without Parsons turbines. The Americans work off a lot of British turbine designs. They either build some of the early American ships are either built with American licensed versions of British turbine designs, or actually with British turbines. So, yeah, that's not really a problem. It's a question. It's a question. It's like, okay, I'm just trying to get in the mindset of 1905. It's a different world than we understand today. Think it as a rapidly changing technological scenario where you can still buy from everyone else, and what matters is status more than anything. An image of status. And the fact is, the Royal Navy is prepared to sell the stuff to these people, despite, quite happy for them, because again, it's... if you turn around to the British yards, if the Americans had wanted to, or the Germans had wanted to order British battleships built in British yards for them, they would have been built. They would have quite happily built them. Those yards might not have wanted those orders, in terms of German ones, but if the Germans had made them, they'd have taken them. They wouldn't have hesitated. It's low on fuel. Have I been hitting in fuel tanks? Oh. I think the fires I've been having going have been burning off its fuel supplies. That's cruel. Effective, but cruel. Sure, wasn't Powder B one of the first times something like this was kept secret for a real length of time? Yes. Is it like selling to naval coders? Yes. To an extent it is. Because, let's be honest, that's half the reason the British buy 16¼ inch guns. It's what other people are getting. Poor San Martin. I think we're going to be really cruel. I think we're going to let you get into 6-inch gun range. I know that means you're well within 12-inch gun range, but I think my 6-inch guns will do the job. And very quickly, those 12-inch guns proved very effective. And of course, then I remember that this is a battle cruiser, not a battleship. I was just using the simulated battleship sites, and that was stupid of me. And I think I may have just stupidly lost this or thrown this match away. Entirely because of ego, or rather forgetting that it was whilst I was simulating a battleship shape, it's a battle cruiser. And yeah. Although I would like to point out again, you would have magazine for the aft guns, magazine for the centre, and a magazine for the forward. Oh, it's got fire everywhere. Don't tell me I'm... No, I won't do it this time. I can't. With that amount of... with that issue, with that floatability, there is no way I can do the survival, and... I'm flooding too much. I'm gone. Admittedly, you are not getting back anywhere to home, but your 4.7s are doing the job now. Yeah, I'm gone. Spike. I found a new IO quirk tonight. A 30,000 ton battle cruiser, 30.5 inch, running away from a 20,000 ton heavy cruiser with 2 quad 8 inch, all forward, 5.9 inch to the rear. Don't know why they insist on running from me. I can think of a good reason. Gone. So, thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed that. But sort of what you're talking about is the South America race, because people saying their ships were better than the RN ships and the USN, but not RN not worried due to the building most of them. True. Anyway, thank you very much everyone for being here. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And yeah, this will probably go live on YouTube in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care, and thank you, Garsman14, Spike to Spike. Thank you, Sean Mac. Thank you, Runon. Thank you, everyone who's been here. Thank you, everyone who supports the channel. Thank you. I had some new here earlier, I think, if I can find them. Leslie, and thank you. And there was Malaga, thank you. Thank you for being here. And Artorius, Dux Bellum, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. And Blackbird17 mode, hello to Kentucky again. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Hope you enjoyed, and hope you enjoyed the discussion. Take care.